I was calling every single day, but I could only sign like 2 clients, and they were both roofing contractors. That's how I kind of niched down eventually into roofing specifically. The year after that, we realized, okay, me and my brother, we really have to dial in. So we invested in sales courses, learning, actual techniques to cold call. One of the things was not saying the price when you cold call and actually using that as leverage so that they're kind of curious about the price. Different techniques like that.
With all of these calls, are they mainly just check-in calls with clients or like discovery calls?
Great question. So
guys, before we get into the podcast, 91.6% of you guys are not subscribed. So please do hit the subscribe button since it will help get even crazier guests and blow up the channel. So yeah, let's get back into the video.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Gen Z Fastlane. Today we have Matthew here, who is the founder of Clive System, which is an agency that helps basically roofing contractors, and also a junior in McCombs, which we're also going to talk about more later on. So yeah, Matthew, why don't you just do a brief introduction of yourself?
So yeah, well, I'm Matthew Kim. Started this company around 3 years ago, Clive Systems, and we're ultimately helping roofing companies scale. Like Bosco said, I'm actually taking a gap year this year from the School of Business, from the McCombs School of Business. So a lot of exciting things happening, ultimately growing the business, working by myself. So I'm happy to be here and talking about all of it.
Nice. So just starting off with the whole, lead gen agency, you've generated over $500,000 in net profits for clients, which is actually just insane. So could you break us down, like the overall process that you're currently running, or how the process have evolved from, when you started to, the current situation?
For sure, man. And lead generation, obviously in business, is such an important aspect. Mainly is just lead generation, sales, and then actually fulfilling on a service. So we kind of cover the main pillars of lead generation as well as a little bit of sales. So the main channel that we utilize to help roofing contractors grow, it honestly depends on the client. But we've been finding a lot of success recently through social media advertising, mainly Facebook and Instagram advertisement. There's like billions of users on Facebook and Instagram, and there's just so many people that you can market to. So ultimately kind of leveraging those channels as well as other ones if needed for our different clients, and expanding ads, making sure that we're giving good offers and growing businesses that way.
So yeah, so like in terms of this whole industry, I feel like it's pretty unique to target, roofing contractors, as, if you heard from the lead gen space, many people are targeting the common software, the more sexy niches, right? So yeah. What was your overall decision with targeting roofing contractors?
Yeah, great question. The thing is when you look at different industries, you look at like software and like e-commerce and all these different things, especially particularly in lead generation. It seems like that's just the obvious way to go, right? Because they're more online based businesses. They're not as, local, I guess. Kind of targeting local businesses is unique in that aspect, especially roofing contractors who aren't typically like, in the whole, lead gen technical space like that. But ultimately the whole thought process is because, not a lot of roofing companies prioritize that aspect, we can kind of leverage that into a whole new opportunity where we're genuinely helping these contractors do things that they've never done before, because they haven't they haven't had the time to really focus on their online presence, lead generation, because they are on roofs selling jobs, things like that. So me and my brother, we just saw a huge opportunity, and also roofing isn't getting replaced by AI anytime soon. So it's a growing industry, very profitable once you can get your margins down. So that's why we ultimately keyed in on roofing. We just kind of saw a blue ocean here, and now we're helping roofing companies across the country. So that's kind of how we keyed in on that demographic.
Awesome. I really like your analogy here, like just keying in on a specific industry that's kind of untouched. And I guess it will be never replaceable, right? Because, I feel like the common basic needs is, water, food, and like housing. So like these things, like even though like 100 years later, it's still going to be needed by all humans. So it's really good to target that industry. So yeah, in terms of your like landing page, I feel like you have a really unique one, because it's just all like green when I went to on your landing page, right? And you immediately tell your user to book a Calendly link, right? A Calendly. We'll basically drop an image here for, anyone who's interested in seeing this image. So what was actually your overall strategic direction with this landing page?
Yeah. Essentially with the landing page, every single landing page ultimately is designed to drive one conversion action. And for us, it's booking a call to kind of talk with me, explore if we might be able to potentially help out roofers. And by making the Calendly link so blatant within our page, we basically make it impossible to do anything else, because I see a lot of the times in lead generation, maybe it's like a full-on website that the leads are sent to, which means they can click, and it's good that they learn a little bit more about the business and things like that, but that also means there's a potential for them to drop off and not actually do what you want them to do, which is book a time with you to meet and just have this conversation. Conversations like these. So that was kind of the thought process of including the Calendly link, including the calendar right there, front and center, because that's ultimately what we want to do, is convert as many face-to-face meetings on Zoom as possible.
Nice. So in terms of like your outreach channels right now for your personal agency, like what are the core channels that you're using to get these roofing contractors?
So basically building up the business, it was straight cold calling, going on Google My Business, going on the BBB, which is like a directory of contractors, and just straight up, calling roofing business owners, asking them if they're interested in, potential lead generation services. And building up the business basically to the point where we're doing $30,000 a month in monthly recurring revenue just off of cold calling. And then from there, once we started to build up a little bit more capital, that's where we invested heavily into the systems that we were building out for our roofers, which is namely paid advertisements. So making advertisements directed towards roofing companies is our main outreach channel. And ultimately, I think that that's the most scalable way to grow your business, is through paid traffic. I know there's a lot of organic content that still needs to be made, making sure you're providing value. But ultimately, you can get to the point, man, where you can start to predict your revenue. Just, okay, if I spend X amount, I'll make this amount of money, just because you have all the KPIs and dials. So right now, it's namely just paid advertisements.
Nice. So in terms of like the paid ads, like could you describe, like even in more detail, what was the overall journey for you within like these 2 years? Like when did you start switching to paid ads, and how long were you doing cold calls?
Yeah. So throughout the 2 years, it was a struggle at the beginning, signing any clients. The first year, basically, I only had I was calling every single day, but I could only sign 2 clients. And they were both roofing contractors. So that's how I kind of niched down eventually into roofing specifically. It wasn't always the case, but then I realized the opportunity that was there. And then the year after that, we realized, okay, me and my brother, we really have to dial in. So we invested in sales courses, learning, actual techniques to cold call and what to do, what not to do. One of the things was not saying the price when you cold call, and actually using that as leverage, so that, okay, they're kind of curious about the price. In order to hear it, they kind of need to hop onto the call. Different techniques like that. Ultimately, we just spent hours, 2 to 3 hours every single morning calling, and then the rest of the days in sales calls. And we were able to scale our business that way. That's the thing. It's you don't need to have multiple channels to grow your business. I'm fairly confident that if we switch back to cold calling, we can still continue to grow. It's just the main thing is the scalability aspect. So cold calling, literally being like, hey, is this John? Hey, John, this is just Matthew from Clive. And then just, call in, pitching. And then now we're at the point where, since we've built up enough capital through the cold calling, we had, advertising dollars to kind of test different things. So right now we're running an advertisement where it's kind of like a video advertisement where I'm kind of kicking garbage cans saying stop buying trash leads, and kind of doing it that way. So being funny with it is mainly what we're doing on our paid advertisements, and it's been getting a lot of traffic, a lot of people coming, a lot of roofers coming, and that's the main way that we're getting opportunities now. So kind of the journey, definitely recommend anyone who's getting into sales, into lead generation. Cold calling, it's really tough. You'll get hung up on a lot, but it's worth it because it helps you learn a lot of sales techniques. It kind of builds thick skin a little bit for you as well. And then once you kind of have those sales abilities, kind of transitioning to paid ads is kind of the journey I've seen a lot of people do.
Awesome. Would definitely love to see actually that trash can reel. So like with all of these ideas, like I think one of the biggest, I guess, drawbacks that many people have is just coming up with ideas with, any form of lead gen, right? It doesn't have to be creative, but it can also be copywriting. So what is your strategy to come up with these content? Like, do you study a specific content creator or do you go for like a walk? Like what is, I guess, your overall routine that you found success with?
In the space that I'm in,
Mhm.
a large part of ideas comes from looking at other agencies and see what they're doing. So not necessarily saying to copy one for one, because then you're just diluting the results that you can get. But a lot of what I did, like to get the trash can idea, I was kind of looking at one of my friends who also owns an agency. They were doing really well. It wasn't necessarily kicking trash cans, but it was like, hopping off of a roof and just like doing something crazy and like funny and just like really random. That's what we call it, a pattern interrupt, where, if you're scrolling on Instagram, if you're scrolling on Facebook, if you just kind of have a generic creative, it's kind of hard to stand out. So just getting just allowing yourself to, be creative with it. Don't be afraid to do something really weird. And then also taking inspiration was a huge thing. Like, I don't think I would have come up with that idea if it weren't for looking towards my friends, other successful companies that are running paid advertisements, running lead generation campaigns, and just taking inspiration. Because if they were running an advertisement and they've been running it for like months, it must be doing, making them some sort of money. So that's kind of how my ideation process works. And then I just kind of brainstorm from there.
Nice. So I'm just super curious. So let's just dive deeper into your, I guess, overall like day-to-day routine, right? So you said that you're going to be working at like 8 to 5 p.m., which is actually super long. It's just like the normal, kind of like 9 to 5 hours. So diving deeper into those hours, like what specifically do you do? And like, what's the proportion between like looking at content ideas and like, fulfilling for clients and communicating?
Yeah. So I have a very regimented schedule. I wake up at the same time and go to sleep at the same time every day. Basically, my first hour and a half is following up with prospects. So a large part of what I do, and namely any business in the online space, a large part of it is just sales, particularly because I'm doing sales calls on Zoom. A lot of it is just setting appointments for those Zoom meetings. So in the morning from like 8 to 9:30, I'm either working with my appointment setter who we've onboarded recently, or just calling leads myself. Basically, anyone who comes in through paid ads who hasn't booked a time, I'm ringing them up, calling them up, saying, "Hey, this is Matthew from Clive Systems. I saw that you came in through our ad." Basically, kind of seeing if they need our help, and if they do, booking them into my calendar for a Zoom call.
Mm-hmm.
So for the first hour and a half, that's what I'm doing. From like 9:30 to I'd say 11, sometimes 12, I'm taking calls. Then I'll usually have like lunch, do a post-meal walk. And then after that, from either 12 or 1, I'll be taking calls until 4 p.m., eating dinner, and then I'll take maybe like another call after that and then just go to sleep. So I feel like it's very important to have like, not super strict, but I'm very strict on terms of like when I'm actually eating lunch, so I can have a consistent schedule and I'll like have a routine where it's like, okay, I know what I need to do every single day, day in, day out. And it's helped me grow a lot. And I feel like it's really hard sometimes to stay super regimented. And I'm not saying like you have to be like super, super granular on everything, but I think in order to build kind of like something really amazing, you do have to kind of build a system around it. It's like James Clear, he says like, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And the way I've kind of built my system is, not even just through discipline, it's through literally scheduling my day-to-day through Google Calendar.
Nice. So like with all of these calls, are they mainly just, check-in calls with clients or like discovery calls? And how often like do you check in with clients and like what's their overall, I guess, like retention?
Great question. So what I'm doing mainly is discovery calls. So calls with new potential clients, new potential partners for the company. Um, my brother actually handles a lot of our client communication, internal client communication. So we have a great partnership set up where my main job is bringing in new clients and his main job
Right.
is to handle the actual fulfillment as well as like retention of our clients. We have great results. The thing is if you don't have a great product, it kind of becomes a game of like churn and burn where, you're signing on new clients, but then the same amount of clients leave. And we didn't want to do that. So we kind of, the way that we sign on partners is we ask a lot of questions. We generally dive into their business. It's not just like a sales call. I just genuinely want to help all of our partners so that when we do sign them on, we know for certain that they're going to be a great partner. And that's why our churn is actually really low. I think we could be signing on more partners in terms of volume, but because we are just so, I wouldn't say exclusive, but we are very, very particular about who we're actually signing on. Our churn is, sub 5%, month to month. And I think that just comes down to getting great results as well as genuinely pitching to people who need our service and we think are a good fit for our service.
Nice. So like with the whole agency idea, like you're currently at like 5 figures, right? So what's the overall plan with, scaling to 6 figures or 7 figures? Like, is that something in mind, or like, have you just, heard about, this whole like agency kind of like cap that you have to like a certain point where you scale like way too much that you can't scale, high enough because it's just like scaling manpower, taking on more clients?
Yeah. I feel like right now, from what I've seen from different agencies, I've had the opportunity to network with, agency owners like Matt Shields,
Nice.
Josh Rivera. Like, they've told me that the operational bottle cap actually happens around like $84,000 a month. So that's because like in the agency game, like a large part of it is just kind of managing your margins. Like if you scale to $100,000 a month in monthly recurring revenue, the average margin, like profit margin, like take home profit margin, is around 50%, from what I've seen. But the thing is like getting from 84 to 100, like adding that extra 20K seems to be like the operational bottle cap, where you can operate at 84K with like 70-80% margins, and then once you try to scale to 100K, your margins kind of decrease. And I don't know why that's the case. It's just kind of what I've seen across the industry. So our main goal is to scale profitably, where we're not necessarily taking as large of a hit to our overall margins. And obviously, it takes a team to scale. It takes a lot of, software, a lot of investment through paid advertisements, things like that. But I'd rather be making like $50,000 a month with like 80% margins than $100,000 a month with 50% margins, just because it is a lot of operational drag as well. And I'm starting to experience that a little bit. Signing on our first few team members. My brother manages 2 employees. I just onboarded a new employee. So it is interesting because now, like, it's not just us that we're making money for, it's also other people that are dependent on the success of the business to, fulfill their income. So it is a little bit of pressure, I guess, in that aspect as well, not just increasing revenue, not just decreasing margins. So it's kind of been interesting. It's kind of been something new that we are exploring. But overall, I think it's part of business to kind of learn these things. And I'm really fortunate to be able to learn these things about business now. Looking into the future, there's so many opportunities as well.
Nice. So, like, last question with the whole agency, like, what is your core, I guess, like, motivation to just continue pushing on?
Great question. And I've actually been considering this a long time. Because once you hit like a certain revenue mark, I don't know, you've probably heard this before, but it's kind of hard to keep on, because like me and my brother were, fortunate enough to be able to provide for ourselves and hit all of our basic necessities. So at that point, it's like, what are you really, really striving for? And that's something that I've been considering for a while as well. I think for a long time, I was just kind of living up to the expectations of others. Others, parents, friends, seeing the potential that I could do, and me trying to fulfill that potential. And if I'm being completely honest, I think that was a huge driver for me for a long time, even up to this point. And it hasn't been until recently where I kind of explored for the first time like what I truly wanted in life. Not necessarily hitting these like external markers of success, but like what success means to me in my life. Because growing up, your parent, like, my parents, they sacrificed so much to give me opportunities to go to college, and even taking this gap year to grow my business. They, it took a lot out of them, but they fully trusted me, and, they wanted me to be as successful and happy as possible. So, part of that was because I wanted to live up, to the expectations of others. If I'm being completely honest, but now I think I'm starting really to explore what I truly want in life. And part of that is growing the agency. Part of that is achieving a certain level of financial success to where, okay, I can have more freedom to do other avenues of my life. Like I'm growing a lot of my spirituality, growing a lot of my health, investing in my health, because healthy foods, it's pretty expensive to buy. So things like that, I'm really starting to explore more.
Interesting. I think that's really touching, to be honest. Because I think many people also face something very similar. I mean, for me also, like personally, even though I'm like slightly younger, but like in the future, right? Like, what's the overall plan? Like, is it to continue, scaling the agency, or are you already looking to, dive into another industry?
You've caught me at a very interesting time in my life, man. If you talked to me like 3 months ago, I would have said like all in on the agency, 100%. We're going to scale this thing to $1 million. I don't think long term, like the plan is to stay with the agency. I think right now, we are genuinely helping out roofing companies, and we are, employing 3 different people, as well as providing for ourselves with the company. And I think right now, like God's calling for me is to continue growing this agency. But in the long term, I think one of the highest leverage things that we can do as entrepreneurs, as young people, as striving individuals like yourself, is to start building out a personal brand where you can connect with other like-minded individuals, like what you're doing here with the Gen Z Fast Lane. I feel like it's amazing, and it kind of builds up leverage a lot of the times because you have a network of people who genuinely connect with what you're doing. And my ultimate goal is to help people explore their goals and continue to push for what they truly want rather than living to the expectations of others. But I can't really do that unless I actually fulfill that on my own. So that's kind of my journey right now, is to explore what I truly want so that I can fulfill that, so I can inspire others to do the same.
I like that, because it's very funny again, like, because I'm also building a startup which also does like this whole networking thing. So kind of building like another Tinder, but for younger people who are like building their own agency, kind of having that space. And I actually recently parted ways with my founder for the 5-figure agency, just to pursue this kind of more like full time, even though we have like just like a brainstorm idea. Because I just personally feel like I just didn't found like much meaning and purpose with kind of targeting such a broad audience. Like, I know like Roofing Contractors is a specific one for your case, but for us, we were targeting like construction, software, like all types of different clients, and I just didn't feel like I was making that dent. But yeah, I didn't know we're gonna get super deep into this. But
yeah, I have a tendency to kind of do that. I'm sorry.
No, we're good. This is a good conversation. So yeah, like with the overall agency, like what are some of the more like underrated softwares that you feel like you are currently using and people should also use to scale?
Underrated softwares. My favorite software, I'm sure a lot of agencies use it, GoHighLevel. I still think it's the best CRM software that agency owners can have. Just so many different things. It's such high leverage. Um, our operations are kind of built out with make.com. It's kind of like a Zapier alternative. So we can connect different APIs. It's probably one of the more underrated, like I guess softwares to help connect different APIs. Another one that's really, really awesome that Matt Shields actually started is Appointwise. Basically, it's a software that automatically books appointments, kind of using AI, but it texts as if it were a real person. So I kind of built my own texting AI bot, but I'm not gonna lie, Appointwise is really good. Like, it's a lot better than what I built. So ultimately, like, nurturing prospects, talking to prospects, all through SMS, and it's all through AI. So you give it a prompt, you kind of give it more information about your business, and it answers questions, it sets appointments, it qualifies. So Appointwise is a really good, underrated software that I feel like not a lot of people know about.
Nice. I'll definitely check that out afterwards. So, like, transitioning over to, tying it back to McCombs, right? Currently taking a gap year. So do you want to, like, kind of briefly explain, like, the overall decision with this? And I guess also, like, what your parents also think about it?
Yeah, for sure. So going to McCombs for 2 years. Well, actually, I wasn't in McCombs my first year. And then my second year of sophomore year, I added it as another major. So, obviously, a very good business school in America. It was a great experience overall. I really liked my professors. I know sometimes college is like downplayed a little bit, but I genuinely enjoyed my time in classes, learning a lot of things. Like, even like my accounting professor, he helped me so much with my agency himself. Like, I literally went to office hours, and he would just like help me out, like solve problems with my business and on the accounting side. So I really enjoyed my time there, but it started to get to the point where it was kind of making less and less sense for me to continue to be in school, just due to the growth of the business, the potential that I had, and also the time commitment that school was taking away from really growing what I wanted to. It's kind of crazy. I never would have thought, like, a year, like even at the beginning of this year, that I would not be in college at this point, taking a gap year. And if I'm being honest, if Clive continues to grow at this trajectory, I might not go back to college after this year. And telling my parents that, it was obviously very hard. I mean, Asian households, they put such an emphasis on traditional education, going to, top schools and studying and working hard. And ultimately it kind of came down to having an honest conversation with them on what they truly wanted for me, and what I truly wanted for myself. So it didn't have to kind of be a conflict, because initially there was conflict there where they wanted me to stay in school and I necessarily didn't want to. But I think the way to kind of have the nature of that conversation was establish a shared outcome where all they truly wanted for me was to be financially stable and to be happy. And funny enough, that was my goal as well, right? So it wasn't necessarily that there was a conflict in the goals, it was just the conflict in the means to get there. And then at that point, we didn't have to like argue. It was more of us coming to an understanding of each other, and like understanding like we truly want the same thing. So in that way, we work together to kind of find out like, okay, what would be the best plan of action from here? So that's why I'm taking this year to really prove it, that Clive building a business is sustainable, and up to this point, we definitely have. So that's kind of how we approach the conversation, or I approach the conversation. There's a great book called Crucial Conversations that I kind of use as a framework to kind of have that talk with my parents, because it wasn't an easy one for sure.
Nice. So, like, have McCombs actually helped you, like, has this like kind of reputation helped you get clients? Because like speaking to other agencies, right, like some came from like Penn, like I have a couple friends from there, and they say that in, you know, their journey of scaling their agency, like just saying that you're from Penn or like you're from like this known university really helped, you know, kind of convert this client or build trust. So was that same for you?
I don't really mention it. When I do mention it, it does help, I feel like, but that's just kind of anecdotal. I don't have actual data to back that up. I don't really include that in anything because I think the appeal of my agency isn't necessarily my credentials on my background, but what I actually deliver, the results that we deliver for clients. So that's what I truly emphasize when I am pitching. But if I'm talking to a prospect who, you know, may seem that they value higher education, things like that, I'll bring it up, but it's not really like something I bring up every single time to prospects.
Nice. So like with everything, like I guess like moving forward, what do you think is kind of like your overall purpose in life, and like what do you want to achieve in like 5 years or like 10 years down the line, if you've thought about it, obviously?
Yeah, I've been like meditating on this a lot. That's kind of like the question for all of us, right?
Mm-hmm.
As young people, we're still trying to find out our goals. And I think for me, I've been so dead set on growing Clive to X amount of revenue. And then once I hit that revenue, I'm like, okay, no, let's just add an extra, you know, let's double that. And then you hit that, and then it's like, okay, let's double that. And it's kind of funny how the goalpost kind of moved in that aspect. So, and I guess that's, you know, part of the goals of setting goals, right? Is like hitting them and then finding the next thing. But it kind of became this cycle for me where just seeing the numbers go up, seeing like the money, and kind of like even the experiences, like me and my brother at the beginning of the year, we would do anything to like travel and like, you know, become like the digital nomad. And we've had the opportunities to go on a few trips now from the business, networking with entrepreneurs. But if I'm being honest, it didn't really fulfill me to the way that I thought it would. So I was like, okay, either A, I can move the goalpost even more, or B, I can recognize that maybe there's something else outside of just like worldly achievements that could fulfill me inside. And I think what I'm starting to realize now is the value of spirituality and getting connected to that side of my life, as well as relationships, something that building this business I've kind of neglected for a long time. Connecting with others, spending time, like my daily routine, waking up at 5 and going to sleep at 8, that kind of like prevented me like systematically, and it was on purpose, from being able to hang out with a lot of friends who work during the day, or, you know, are going to classes, things like that, especially because I work throughout basically from 8 to 5 p.m. And then have another meeting after that. So I think right now the main goal is to enjoy every single day. And I think in 5 to 10 years, if I could truly say that, you know, every single day, I just enjoyed the moments. I enjoyed the time that I spent with my brother. I enjoyed the time working on the business, whatever I'm doing. If I can say that I enjoyed the day and I lived it to its fullest, like that's the ultimate goal. Rather than, you know, just these external metrics that, you know, are fleeting once we actually hit them.
Nice. So like with the different opportunities that you're getting, like is there a certain strategy that you're using to kind of analyze whether you want to, you know, take it or just leave it?
Opportunities as in,
like, I guess like any opportunities, like it can be like, I guess like another person wants to find you to, you know, do this interesting project, or like just, I guess, like a networking connection.
It's very easy to say yes to, you know, a bunch of opportunities that come your way. And I had been presented with a lot of opportunities as I was starting to scale my agency. And I feel like a lot of the times as entrepreneurs, the hardest part is saying no to opportunities that come up. It's kind of like the woman in the red dress in the Matrix, right?
Mm-hmm.
You kind of get distracted a little bit, and then you just get like hit in the face, because all these opportunities, to a certain extent, at least from what I've seen, kind of serve as distractions potentially to what the ultimate goal is, or what the ultimate goal has been, which is scaling the one business, the one offer that I truly know I can to grow. So I think for me, it's kind of been a transition to defaulting to no a lot of the times when certain opportunities come up. And that's not saying no all the time. It's just really allowing myself to not just say yes at every single opportunity that comes my way. It has really helped me a bunch in terms of managing my time, as well as actually staying focused on the thing that's generating me revenue.
Awesome. So I guess having that like boundary super important. So like for anyone listening, what is, I guess, like one piece of advice from like all of your years of living, I guess like 20 years of living, right? Like what's that one biggest piece of advice for, agency owners or just people in general?
I'd say that my biggest piece of advice would be to analyze whose goals you're living for. Really think about it. This took a lot of personal reflection. This is coming from someone who, for majority of my life, through middle school, high school, I was working so hard. I was working so hard in school, doing all the extracurriculars, doing all this stuff to get into a good college. And I don't think I had ever taken the time until recently to actually think, like, what do I want in my life? And I think if we can all take 30 minutes, an hour out of our days to actually reflect on that, it could lead to a lot more fulfilled lives, in my opinion.
Nice. Super interesting for sure. Like I think many people they just put on the gas, right, and just keep grinding. They don't really think about it. So like I guess like a small follow-up question with this is like what channels or like what content or what prompts would you like consider when thinking about this topic?
I actually try not to consume that much content anymore. Someone that has really helped me in terms of like mentorship in business, and also they recently started growing a lot on the YouTube platform, Charlie Morgan. He's really big in the agency space, but I was able to join his program and talk with him, and he just thinks on a whole different plane. Like, I genuinely believe that if you're really trying to grow and like have the mindset of an entrepreneur that is fulfilled in life, like a lot of what he does, I really like his the way that he teaches a lot about like thinking about business and life. So Charlie Morgan for sure, I think, is a great person to kind of learn the fundamentals of business of, but also learn, the aspects of like what it takes to grow a business and what it takes to achieve your goals.
Awesome. Yeah, Charlie Morgan, he's definitely one of the guys who I guess like stand out with his videos as well. So yeah, Matthew, really appreciate you hopping on the Gen Z Fastlane. It's been an amazing conversation. Definitely like one of the deepest one that I've ever had, which is obviously, a good thing. Like it isn't definitely bad, but I guess like people can also resonate with this. And yeah, I'll link, Matthew's LinkedIn and everything in the description. And hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Until the next one, peace out.
Peace.